Good evening in Colombia and good morning in Korea. My name is Alfredo Ramos. I'm the Executive Director of ProColombia in the Republic of Korea. Welcome to the webinar, Entrepreneurship and Innovation Ecosystem of Colombia and Korea, an approach to technology transfer. This is a webinar co-organized between iNNpulsa Colombia and Born to Global. I would like to start by thanking the presence today of the Colombian ambassador to Korea, His Excellency Juan Caiza, of Mr. Jong-kap Kim, Chief Executive Director of Born to Global, Mr. Sokjin Chang, Director of International Cooperation of Born to Global as well, Mr. Joao Leite, Founder and CEO of Advance, and Mrs. Catalina Maecha, Vice President for Connection and Experiences of iNNpulsa Colombia. To all of you, thank you very much for joining us and organizing this event today. Finally, I would like to thank the audience for taking this time to join us for this webinar. Y me gustaría indicarle a nuestra audiencia en español que tenemos un servicio de traducción que encontrarán en la casilla inferior de Zoom. I want to highlight the intensive exchanges between Born to Global and iNNpulsa Colombia during the past months. Cooperation in the fields of entrepreneurship and innovation are new and promising fields in our bilateral relation that are bound to bring new opportunities for startups in both countries and that will surely help to create new networks between them. Now, I would like to give the floor to the Ambassador of Colombia to Korea, Juan Caiza, who will give us some introductory remarks. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Alfredo, Director of ProColombia. I would like to begin congratulations to iNNpulsa, our Born to Global, to obtain this MOU in entrepreneurship. I remember October 2019 was the special business mission with our Minister of Trade and Industry. In that opportunity, the Minister of Startups and Entrepreneurship of Korea visited the residency of Colombia. And in that moment began that new relationship that today, with this outcome, Colombia and Korea create a new platform to work around startups. I would like to say this is a special moment because it's different, this kind of relationship with COVID-19 or without COVID-19. The COVID-19 affected, of course, health sector, but the humanity, but at the same time, the impact of COVID-19 is around entrepreneurship. And in this moment, the opportunity to work together between Korea and Colombia is thinking in the economic reactivation. In that way, I would like to invite to see Colombia as a destiny to the Korean and Asia startups. If you visit Colombia, Colombia is as a continent. You can develop your startups in Colombia and you can understand better Latin America. I would like to congratulate to the government of Colombia as a leader, as iNNpulsa, because develop all the platforms to move the scenario, the ecosystem of COVID-19 with our public policies, our white papers, and obviously with the regulation that create tax and finance incentives in this sector. Finally, I would like to define some lines thinking in startups in Colombia. Colombia is one scenario to develop projects in ICT, develop projects in bioeconomy, and develop projects around agriculture with innovation. Think in these two lines, and go ahead, Alfredo, and congratulations ProColombia too with its efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Caiza, for your kind remarks. Now, beginning with our agenda, I would like to introduce you the Director of International Cooperation of Born to Global, Mr. Sokjin Chang. Mr. Chang will present us the Korean startup ecosystem and Born to Global support programs. Mr. Chang, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. And it's a great pleasure to have this opportunity to share with all of you, our distinguished participants, regarding our startup ecosystem and how we plan to collaborate globally, particularly bilaterally with Colombia. First of all, I would like to talk a little bit about the Korean startup ecosystem. As you all know, South Korea, fortunately, based on the government support and the national interest in deep tech innovation, we have been able to maintain a very high position in terms of the global innovation indices, including the Bloomberg 2021 Innovation Index, where South Korea was placed on the top spot. And in the background of all of this, we think, is the amazing support from the Korean government and the people of Korea in promoting startups, innovation, and deep tech. As you can see in my slide, there are over 194 programs ranging from 15 ministries and even the local governments to support startups and entrepreneurship here in Korea. As a result, the budget for supporting startups has increased by over 4.6% last year to reach a total amount of $1.38 billion this year to support startups in the areas of commercialization, research and development, providing facilities and space, education for entrepreneurs, and obviously mentoring. Another interesting aspect is the overall investment in the startup by venture capitals and private sector investors here in Korea. We have seen in the past 10 years a 241% in growth of investments in startups. A total of over 2,100 startups were invested this year, and the number is continuously growing. Another interesting aspect, I know that this is also true in Colombia, that the investments in startups is also increasing despite the global pandemic. And I think this is a signal to the society that startups and innovation are the key growth engines to prepare us in the post-pandemic era. In terms of what are the key investment sectors that is receiving investment from the venture capitals, it is probably not very surprising, particularly to our participants from Colombia, that the key sectors receiving these investments are in ICT services and biomedical. As you very well know, these two areas are the key areas where the government of Korea is pushing for global leadership and also has the greatest interest in the general public. Another interesting area that we have seen grow in investment during the past few years has been logistics and services. We believe that probably due to the onset of COVID-19, there has been a greater interest and a growing number of companies that have transferred and changed their existing solutions to apply them to logistics and service due to social distancing. In terms of the investment, a very interesting statistic is that, as you can see on the bottom column, the fund of funds investment in startups has been gradually on the decrease. Here in Korea, we think this is a very positive signal because this, on the other hand, can be interpreted as that the private sector players are playing a larger role in investment in entrepreneurs and new startups. So we think that now we have the two strong pillars, one from the government and one from the private sector, all playing towards building a stronger startup ecosystem here in Korea. Another new policy that the government has been announcing and implementing this year has been what is called the promotion and the digital new deal for the DNA industry. The DNA stands for data, network, and AI. We believe that especially with the accelerated digital transformation due to COVID-19, data, network, and AI are going to be the key growth engines for the future of the Korean economy and the society. And therefore, the Ministry of Science and ICT has empowered the Born to Global Center to focus more on the growth and the global expansion and collaboration of startups in the DNA industry. Another interesting government economic policy direction of this year has been the promotion of joint ventures and collaborative R&D between startups. The Korean government, in its National Economic Policy Direction document, has announced and has mandated Born to Global Center to continuously support and promote the establishment of joint ventures between Korean and overseas startups, in this case, Colombia. We are going to continuously work in this area, including the establishment of funds, bilateral and multilateral, that will not only promote and provide grants to joint ventures, but eventually also invest in the startups and the joint ventures between startups between Korea and other countries. And I'm greatly hoping that this webinar today will serve as a foundation for strengthening and continuing our discussions on how Colombia and Korea bilaterally can work together more closely to promote these kinds of partnerships in deep tech startups between our two great nations. Now I would like to introduce a little bit about what we do, what are our international collaboration programs, and how we intend to collaborate with iNNpulsa Colombia and also Colombia as a nation. The Born to Global Center is an agency under the Korean Ministry of Science and ICT, and we focus primarily on the global collaboration and expansion of our innovative deep tech startups. And in doing so, we focus very much on what kind of companies can receive our support. We believe that the companies who should be ready to work with global startups need to have their global business readiness, need to have their product market fit, and there needs to be global demand for their products and services. And once they are selected as our members, we provide legal, patent, accounting, investment, and marketing services, all from in-house by our in-house experts, so that these startups have that foundational support in working with overseas startups and expanding globally. These are the range of consulting services that we provide. And of course, we have our product market fit program, where if a Korean startup wishes to expand to the market in Colombia, we work with a Colombian local agency in providing a consultation report even before they board the plane to Bogota, so that they can understand the Colombian society, the culture, the tech ecosystem, the customer base, and who are their potential partners in Colombia, so that they can safely enter the market and work together with the local startups in promoting their products and developing them further to localize to the market in Colombia, and in the longer term, the market in Latin America. We also have a very short BUDEX program that we provide for our early stage startups. We think that this is another area that Born to Global Center and iNNpulsa Colombia can work together, so that if there are Colombian startups that are thinking to make Korea their platform, their hub for expanding to larger markets in Asia, such as China, Japan, and Southeast Asia, Born to Global Center will be here and provide the necessary acceleration for your startups from Colombia into Korea. We work very extensively with global companies through tech matching programs, so that if there are some solutions that these global companies need, we will provide the necessary startups that can provide the answers to the challenges faced by global companies. Over the past 7 years, Born to Global Center has attracted over $1.5 billion to our startups, working with over 2,600 startups here in Korea and providing, as you can see, consulting services, overseas patents, contracts, and incorporations. As you can understand, because we work with deep tech startups, most of our startups, as you can see in our tech areas graph, work in the solutions of AI, machine learning, big data, IoT, health tech, fintech, and so on. So we work with very deep tech startups, and it is my understanding and based on my experience, there are just as many deep tech startups in Colombia. And I think there are many areas where we can collaborate between the deep tech startups. We publish a startup index. If you have time, they are available on our website, and you can read through it to understand more about the Korean startup ecosystem. So now what do we think about and what are our plans for global collaboration, specifically collaborations with Colombia in deep tech startups? Over the past years, we have been working extensively with other countries to help their startup ecosystem, co-invest, and build the capacity and promote business and partnerships between startups. Of course, with the onset of COVID-19, there has been a challenge of limited travel for startups and limited meetings, offline meetings between our entrepreneurs. We have found that tech matching and the formation of joint ventures between startups can be a solution to this problem. Therefore, beginning last year, we have started to work with the IDB, the Inter-American Development Bank, in two key projects. One, establishing a joint Korea-Latin America startup fund that invests in the joint ventures formed between Korea and Latin American countries. Our second project is, of course, creating these joint ventures between Korea and Latin America. And distinguished participants, I'm very pleased and honored to announce today that 5 joint ventures have been born between Korea and Latin American countries. And surprisingly, Korea and Colombia was the first 2 countries to create this joint venture between our startups. Shopper and Company and the Colombian startup Advance, their solution Adelanta to Pago, have been the first startup pair to be selected by the IDB to receive a grant from the IDB and create synergy between their solutions to expand further, not just in Colombia and Korea, but in the global market. I am very, very honored to have Joao, who is the CEO of Advance, to talk about a little bit more about their joint partnership in the later presentation. So our key plan for collaboration in deep tech is the formation of joint ventures, creating maybe a bilateral fund between Korea and Colombia so that these joint ventures that are born between Korea and Colombia can receive the necessary initial public support from the governments and the public sector, taking that money and growing, sometimes in Korea, sometimes in Colombia, and eventually becoming global unicorns by participating in global projects that Born to Global Center and iNNpulsa Colombia will jointly source. We believe that this project can be taken further so that the scope of this project is not just limited to Latin America, but the world. We are now talking with the World Bank on a similar structure, forming joint ventures between deep tech startups, and that these joint ventures can participate in the global development programs that the World Bank is financing. And we believe that this small change and this small step in joint ventures can lead to greater results for the good of the mankind. So we believe that bilateral collaboration in deep tech, a collaborative approach to deep tech R&D can allow us to tackle our development challenges, allow the technological and knowledge transfer between countries, enable sustainable scaling up, and foster, of course, a stronger entrepreneurial system in the participating countries. We would like to propose to take this opportunity that Korea and Colombia, more specifically Born to Global Center in iNNpulsa Colombia, start working on building a channel for building these joint ventures between the deep tech startups of Korea and deep tech startups in Colombia. One of them having a deep technology knowledge, and the other having obviously the localization and the local operational capacity. We believe that taking this further through the Born to Global Center programs and also the programs offered by iNNpulsa, these joint ventures can move and grow to become global unicorns working in the global market. For this, the Born to Global Center will prepare a design lab where if there are these joint ventures born, they can be housed in our offline design lab where they can conduct collaborative R&D together for a month, for 3 months, or 6 months. If also these joint ventures need additional technology, Born to Global Center will work with the research institutes here in Korea so that we can take those technologies that are hidden in our labs, bring them out, and match those technologies with the joint ventures and the startups so that they can be turned into profitable businesses. The Korean government has, for that, prepared a joint venture budgetary project where we will support any startup that is forming joint ventures, the needed costs for establishing and operating these joint ventures through the government budget. And I'm sure that this will be a great help and incentive for our startups in forming joint ventures and partnerships with startups in Colombia. We believe that through this collaborative R&D, we can foster more deep tech joint ventures and create impact through collaborative R&D, boost disruptive technology, promote the local ecosystems, and of course, enable a sustainable development and prepare us for the post-COVID era. So and the Born to Global Center's deep tech collaboration roadmap starts from our offline design lab and the lab to market programs, the creation of joint ventures, and of course, matching them with global companies and global institutions so that they can grow in the global market. This is the end of my presentation. I know that it's been brief, but hopefully I've been able to share with you some ideas and insights on how our ecosystem is formed and how we plan to work together with Colombia. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Chang. Brilliant Spanish. And thank you for your very interesting presentation. I share your conviction that this webinar should also help to continue this dialogue in order to work together and promote more partnerships between Korea and Colombia. Now, I would like to introduce you the Vice President for Connection and Experiences of iNNpulsa Colombia, Mrs. Catalina Maecha, who will present us the Colombian startup ecosystem and iNNpulsa Colombia programs. I suggest as well for our English-speaking participants to use the interpretation services provided at the bottom of the screen, as Mrs. Maecha will speak in Spanish. Mrs. Maecha, you have the floor.
Alfredo, muchas gracias, embajador Juan Carlos Caiza, un gran aliado para nosotros, a todos los altos directivos desde Born to Global, un gran aliado también en todo este proceso de colaboración entre Corea y Colombia, muchas gracias. Quiero agradecer también, por supuesto, a algunas personas de la embajada que nos han ayudado en todo este proceso, a Francisco González, a Juan Sebastián Castellanos, desde Born to Global, por supuesto, a Flor Lee, que ha sido también artífice de este gran evento, y desde ProColombia, por supuesto, a Teresa, a la doctora Flavia y a todo el equipo, que ha sido maravilloso. Bueno, hoy estoy aquí para presentarles lo que es y en lo que venimos trabajando desde iNNpulsa Colombia y, por supuesto, desde el gobierno, como Colombia, como ese ecosistema de emprendimiento e innovación. Nosotros desde iNNpulsa somos la agencia de innovación y emprendimiento y estamos enfocados principalmente en fortalecer no solo los ecosistemas, sino la oferta también a nuestros emprendedores desde todos los ámbitos. Y es por eso que este ecosistema tiene estas 4 aristas que vemos aquí en la presentación, y es ver cómo logramos esa articulación y es cómo logramos también cumplir el gran legado de gobierno, que es legalidad, emprendimiento y equidad. Son ejes transversales en los que también nosotros reflejamos toda nuestra oferta, y es esa articulación entre gobierno, academia, sociedad, entidades privadas y, por supuesto, entidades de apoyo. Y parte de esta articulación viene también con lo que nos convoca hoy, y es la articulación entre Colombia y Corea, de gran importancia para nuestro ecosistema, no solo en términos de transferencia de conocimientos, sino también en estructuración de proyectos potenciales que además pues generen estos resultados positivos para nuestros emprendedores, retos de desarrollo global, como lo mencionaba mi colega, y en lo que estamos trabajando, por supuesto, en conjunto, que queremos que sea parte de este gran proyecto de colaboración que queremos tener el día de hoy. Bueno, aquí tenemos algunas cifras que tenemos y en las que hemos venido trabajando como gobierno y que nos dan un gran panorama también positivo a nivel mundial, y es cómo Colombia se ha posicionado en diferentes aspectos, por ejemplo, como gobierno en línea, obteniendo la tercera posición dentro de los países de la OCDE como un gobierno digital, y esto lo hemos logrado también. Va a sonar un poco raro, pero gracias a la pandemia es que pudimos nosotros acelerar también este proceso de digitalización. Hemos sido nombrados presidentes de la RELAI para el periodo 2020-2021. Esta ha sido una articulación bien importante con el ecosistema, sobre todo a nivel LATAM, con las diferentes agencias de innovación. Tenemos, por supuesto, nuestra ley de emprendimiento, en donde lo que queremos es modernizar ese marco regulatorio para emprendedores y para empresarios colombianos, que facilite mucho más este acto de emprender, y ese es el objetivo principal. Por supuesto, todos los recursos que se han venido invirtiendo para financiación en proyectos de tecnología y de ciencia, más de 1 billón en beneficios tributarios, que esto también pues apoya notablemente a nuestros empresarios, temas de becas con Fulbright, donde pues podemos apoyar a estudiantes en temas de innovación y negocios, que vemos que también es una línea muy importante en temas de educación, inversión en investigación y desarrollo, que también es un paso que hemos venido dando pues a nivel país. Poder decir que el 38% de los ingresos de las compañías en temas de manufactura pues son invertidas ahora en actividades de investigación y desarrollo. Poder decir además que tenemos ya 4 universidades posicionadas en el top 500 en el mundo, que esto también pues da una relevancia de cómo están saliendo pues preparados nuestros estudiantes a enfrentarse con esta nueva globalidad. Tenemos más de 24 centros de transformación digital en donde apoyamos a medianas y medianas y pequeñas empresas a través de alianzas público-privadas, más de 95 centros que soportan el emprendimiento y la innovación desde todos los ámbitos. Estamos ya hablando de patentes, todas las aplicaciones que tenemos, ahorita 991 aplicaciones a junio de 2021, que también es un incentivo pues al desarrollo y a la innovación, más de 22.000 artículos publicados, tener ya más de 13.000 investigadores reconocidos también por MinCiencias. Todo esto nos hace también que desde afuera pues nos vean como un país en donde sí hay posibilidades y hay oportunidades, y en donde se puede trabajar también colaborativamente. Bueno, para continuar, un tema pues muy importante en lo que nos hemos caracterizado, y es toda la política pública que hemos generado alrededor del emprendimiento, y desde Impulsa Colombia nos tomamos ese liderazgo, y por eso es que salió la Ley de Emprendimiento 2069 del 31 de diciembre del año pasado, y esto es lo que ha permitido pues estas facilidades para acceder al financiamiento y para poder crear empresa, para ser emprendedores. También lo soporta el COMPES 4011, que fortalece este desarrollo de habilidades para emprender y nos habilita para tener este ecosistema emprendedor. Son 5 ejes en los que hemos trabajado en esta ley. El primero tiene que ver con tarifas diferenciadas y simplificación, sobre todo en tramitología. Un segundo punto en compras públicas, por supuesto todo el tema de financiamiento, que es un eje clave para el emprendimiento, todo el tema de institucionalidad y por supuesto el tema de educación, en donde el desarrollo de habilidades para emprender pues son claves en este proceso. Adicional a eso, les queremos contar un proyecto muy bonito, y es como, bueno, 3 proyectos básicamente desde Impulsa Colombia, que son pilar y que venimos impulsando fuertemente. Uno tiene que ver pues con Se Emprende, que son nuestros centros de emprendimiento e innovación a nivel país. En este momento ya tenemos 19 sedes. Estas están constituidas también por laboratorios y por sedes específicamente que venimos trabajando con nuestros aliados, y esto nos permite un fortalecimiento y una articulación de ecosistema de emprendimiento e innovación en el país. Más de 14.800 emprendedores ya los tenemos registrados a nuestra comunidad, más de 10.600 emprendedores están beneficiados de todo lo que ofrecemos desde Se Emprende, 7 embajadores a nivel internacional que ya están seleccionados y que son la base para dar esas mejores prácticas a nuestros emprendedores y esa gran experiencia que han tenido a nivel internacional, 11 ciudades ya vinculadas, en donde queremos también anunciarles que próximamente vamos a tener nuestra oficina en Israel, que va a ser otro puente también de articulación con el ecosistema internacional. más de 190 aliados nacionales e internacionales, tanto de sector público como privado, también articulados ya en esta iniciativa. Contarles además de nuestro programa Aldea, que es un programa insignia que tenemos desde Impulsa Colombia, donde desde su creación ya tenemos a más de 2.100 emprendedores acelerados con todo un proceso muy articulado también con aliados y aceleradoras en el país. Desde nuestra área de capital, pues hemos ya movilizado más de 1.8 billones en capital a través de fondos, a través de crowdfunding, de líneas de crédito, de rondas de inversión. Ha sido un trabajo bien significativo desde el área de capital para acercar a nuestros emprendedores a los inversionistas y que puedan tener financiamiento y capital. Y puesto mi lab, que es este gran laboratorio de innovación pública en donde tenemos diferentes proyectos y actividades, por ejemplo, en temas de automatización robótica de procesos y tecnologías de registro, temas de inteligencia artificial, también temas de transformación digital. Estamos trabajando con el DPS y la Consejería de Asuntos Económicos y Transformación Digital, un reto en blockchain para la atención a población en estado de indigencia y extrema pobreza. Tenemos también un reto en temas de fintech, donde damos soluciones tecnológicas para el acceso a productos de crédito y transacciones para las MIPYMES. Con el PNUD también tenemos un reto en telesalud, junto con la Consejería también de Asuntos Económicos. Mejor dicho, este es también un gran proyecto que le estamos dando toda la relevancia desde el tema de GovTech, que ahora pues es tan importante dentro de nuestro ecosistema. Para seguir avanzando entonces con nuestra presentación, tenemos entonces y les queremos contar muy rápidamente esos 5 puntos y la gran visión desde donde nos estamos enfocando en Impulsa Colombia en este momento, y aquí podemos ir pasando, en donde el primero pues tiene que ver con ecosistemas y donde no tengamos solo un gran ecosistema, sino varios ecosistemas especializados. Y aquí puedo poner un ejemplo como FinTech, que es un gran sector que ya en Colombia se ha venido desarrollando, tiene una normativa, tenemos emprendedores sobresalientes en este punto, por mencionar alguno, David Vélez, por ejemplo, que ha tenido pues cercanía con Brasil y que ha tenido todo este gran emprendimiento, y ahora podemos decir que muchas fintech están apuntándole hacia ese mismo lado. Queremos, por supuesto, trabajar en esa especialización de ecosistemas por sectores que tengamos con PropTech, con GovTech, que ya lo venimos trabajando, con AgTech, y por eso aquí está también nuestra oficina en Israel para ver cómo conectamos estos temas de EdTech, en donde podamos crear comunidad. Todos estos son algunos ecosistemas que queremos especializar y en donde Colombia puede resaltar y puede brillar. Como un segundo punto, si avanzamos, tenemos entonces esta visión 2025 de un gran impacto en el ecosistema de la TAM, y es esta triple hélice en donde tenemos las empresas BIC, que como sabemos son estas empresas de beneficio de interés colectivo, que son esta nueva generación de empresas que permiten crear valor tanto social como ambiental, y es así como queremos generar un gran impacto, por supuesto ligados a los ODS, que es un marco que nos da toda la apertura para poderlo hacer, y Colombia es un país que está preparado y lo podemos hacer, lo estamos haciendo de la mano con el Ministerio de Comercio y también algunos aliados. De hecho, seguimos con la presentación, estamos planeando un evento para septiembre con grandes aliados muy importante para poderlo repercutir en el ecosistema en temas de empresas BIC. Como un tercer punto, pues todo el tema regional y la conexión global con el mundo a través de Semprende, como les comentaba. Aquí queremos que Semprende se vuelva ese gran centro de emprendimiento e innovación que conecte con todos nuestros ecosistemas. Queremos proyectarnos a cerrar el año con 30 sedes a nivel país en 23 departamentos, y en eso estamos trabajando. Y aquí podemos ver un gran mapeo, digamos, de la visión de cómo nos vemos articulados con el ecosistema. Y aquí no es solo Corea, que es nuestro gran aliado hoy lo que nos convoca, sino es el mundo en general y cómo ya nos empezamos a conectar con aceleradoras, con fondos de inversión, con universidades, con empresas y poder generar este gran oportunidad, esta gran gama de oportunidades para todos nuestros emprendedores y empresas, traer más conocimiento a Colombia del que ya tenemos y por supuesto que los proyectos país pues se vuelvan proyectos globales. Hay un punto muy importante y es educar para innovar. Y es aquí donde tenemos un reto muy grande y es cómo vamos vinculando también a los colegios transversalmente en todos los temas de emprendimiento e innovación, que no solo se haga desde las universidades o incluso ya cuando la persona se gradúa y se da cuenta que de pronto no quiere ser empleado, sino quiere crear empresa, que empecemos nosotros a crear esa curiosidad desde chiquitos, desde los colegios. Y ese es un reto muy grande que queremos tener como gobierno, es un reto que nos ha puesto el presidente Duque y que ya lo estamos trabajando. Tenemos un proyecto que se llama Impulsa Kids y aquí lo estamos empezando a trabajar con diferentes aliados, pero sí es para nosotros muy importante empezar a crear desde pequeños esa semilla, que eso da pues un valor agregado a futuro pues para los niños y esas futuras generaciones. Y por último, en nuestro quinto punto tenemos, pues, por supuesto, construir sobre lo construido y es esta, pues, ley de emprendimiento que ya tenemos andando. Estamos en el proceso de regulación. Estamos también trabajando en un libro, Colombia, Nación Emprendedora, en donde vamos a articular a diferentes aliados y que sea ese gran credo de cómo el emprendedor tiene una guía para poder seguir a otros, seguir esas buenas prácticas. Y por supuesto todos nuestros informes y reportes de emprendimiento que además venimos construyendo de la mano con muchos aliados para generar ese gran mapeo de ecosistema. Estas son las 5 entonces ideas de visión que tenemos en las que estamos trabajando pues arduamente y que esperamos pues por supuesto Corea haga parte de esta visión en la que ya estamos trabajando articuladamente y de manera colaborativa. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Catalina, for your presentation. When I was watching the slides, I started to notice that there are important coincidences between the visions of Korea and Colombia regarding entrepreneurship, innovation, digital economy, and other areas. So it makes me feel that the future for this partnership is going to be very bright. Now, following with our agenda today, let me now introduce the founder of CEO of Mr. Joao Leite. Mr. Joao Leite will present us the success case of the Korea and Latin America Exchange Program, the Colombia-Korea Joint Venture Partnership. Mr. Leite, you have the floor now, sir.
Very good, Alfredo. Thank you so much. Thanks for the invitation from iNNpulsa and from all the agencies around this call. I'm here to show the success case of Advance and Shuffle, how we've been partnering together with the support of many entities that have been helping us. First of all, my name is Joao Leite. I'm the founder and CEO of Advance Adelanta Pago, active here in Colombia. I'm actually originally from Portugal, but I've been established in Colombia for some time. And that's already, a proof of how Colombia is open for foreigners and for, having entrepreneurs from outside the country coming here. So coming to our partnership, Advance and Shuffle. Before starting, and telling you about the logic of these partnerships, probably worth introducing both companies very, very shortly. Let me start with Advance, and I'll start by telling you the people that we want to support, the people that we are serving, and tend to be low-income people like Andrea, that for some reason have a financial emergency. They need cash today for whatever emergency that they have. Our solution lets these people get access to their earned wages ahead of payday, right? And does this for, as the cheapest possible solution in the market. We allow people like Andrea to not go into loan, not going to a loan shark, which unfortunately is endemic in the region, and have their financial problems solved on a very short time without accessing credit, right? And this is probably a critical feature of what we do. Not accessing credit. Many people are reported to credit agencies that they do not have access to credit lines, and we provide them a non-credit solution to solve their short-term problems. I can tell you much more about Advance, but obviously I want to present our partners as well. Shopple & Company. I'll tell you how we got together. But first, what does Shopple & Company do? They have an amazing solution, amazing tool to serve field sales teams, right? Teams that had to change the way that they do sales in the streets of Colombia, but all over our region because of COVID, right? Dynamics changed. Large companies were able to involve and have their own systems. Smaller companies were at the disadvantages. And this is when we started to see a fantastic opportunity to create impact through what Shopple does and bring Shopple to our region and start serving some of the customers some of the clients that are already our clients. The whole reason for impact is to be able to deploy, give the proper tools to field sales teams, deploy them to work without having much less interaction, which now post-COVID time, it's everyone is apprehensive of, and guarantee the proper tracking, the proper productivity tracking of the employees across the fields, and also provide them with the necessary information in tools for them to be productive. So fantastic tool. We've been discussing this with some local companies, very, very interesting. But now let me talk a bit about our partnership. So how did we come together, right? We came together by understanding what both of us do and starting to understand that we do have some commercial synergies and most important, some potential client overlap. And all this without actually competing with each other, right? So we are both serving on a B2B2C model. We are serving large companies who tend to be to have large employee bases. And so we saw an opportunity to join forces and actually be able to get both companies a bit further away. All this with also enjoying the fact that we are working together. We're working closely for some months now and sharing a lot of knowledge and know-how of how to address sales, technology, and operational challenges that all startups have. So that has been very reaching. And most of all, and the third pillar, I think it's very important, is through the partnership, we started to evolve and discover some ways that we can bring more impact, social and economic impact to the markets, to the companies, and most of all to the users that we are both servicing. And one of the things that we have developed so far is financial education models, financial planning tools for the employees that serve and use both of our tools. This has been crucial. It's a need that was identified both from the employers that we work with, but also by researching and talking to the users that we're talking to. It's people that want the proper tools, but don't want only to solve their short-term problems. They also want to learn, and they also want to have a bit more sustainable solutions for themselves. So one of the tools that we're starting to have impact and actually came through this partnership. Lastly, a bit of now talking about the agencies that have been behind us. I'll start with ProColombia. From advanced side, ProColombia selected us and invited us to participate in this program of global partnerships. Very thankful to ProColombia, obviously. We've been through them and through Born to Global, we're able to get in contact with Shopple and discover ourselves and discover the opportunities that we can explore together. Also, the BEAD Lab and Born to Global together, the program that they've built, supporting us and other startups throughout Latin America. Obviously, we are very thankful of that and thankful of the professionalism of the teams on pushing us to go further, but also giving us the freedom to explore the things that we need to explore together as partners, right? And finally, Central, an accelerator that is connected to Google that has been supporting us throughout this program. So very thankful to all these entities. I think this is the proof that all the entities that are around the call, including iNNpulsa that organized this forum, and thanks for inviting me again, actually are having impact, not only on the startups that we are developing, but also on the tools that through them we are able to bring to users, and we are able to, in our case, to bring to Colombians, and guarantee that we transform our mission into actual social impact. So thanks a lot for all of that. Quick references to adelantatopago.com and also shopleworks.com. I will just finalize by sharing a very short video with you so that you can learn a bit more about how this alliance was formed. So let me share my screen, and here we go.
En Advance tenemos muy buenas noticias. En 2020, después de lanzar nuestra plataforma de adelantos de nómina, inclusión y educación financiera, fuimos seleccionados por ProColombia para ser parte de un programa de sinergias internacionales, logrando una especial alianza con Shopple, una startup coreana enfocada en mejorar el manejo de los equipos de ventas en campo. Con esto, nuestra meta es impactar la productividad laboral en América Latina y mejorar el bienestar de los trabajadores. Gracias a ello, el Banco Interamericano de Desarrollo seleccionó a Advance y a Shopple como uno de los 5 proyectos a nivel mundial para potencializar nuestro modelo de inclusión y educación financiera. Así, podremos llevar a más personas el concepto de Salary on Demand, que consiste en contribuir activamente a la reducción del endeudamiento de los empleados de menores recursos, así como aportar con herramientas de fácil acceso a la educación e inclusión financiera de los trabajadores que ganan entre 1 y 2 salarios mínimos mensuales, quienes constituyen un 85% de la fuerza laboral del país. Born to Global, la agencia coreana para el desarrollo del ecosistema startup, y Central, una aceleradora conectada a Google, están haciendo acompañamiento al desarrollo de este gran proyecto. Queremos agradecer a todos nuestros aliados, clientes, usuarios y amigos el apoyo y la confianza en Advance. Esto ha sido fundamental para alcanzar nuestros objetivos de impactar a miles de colombianos. Con Advance, le das a tu equipo un beneficio exclusivo, le das el poder sobre su salario. Conoce más en adelantatopago.com o escríbenos a info@adelantatopago.com. Advance y Shopple, impactando a tus equipos de ventas.
Many thanks, everyone. Alfredo, back to you.
Thank you, Joao, for that very interesting presentation. It also makes me think a little bit. It is clear that you entrepreneurs are looking for tools to solve needs in a changing world, and that's a big challenge. Through synergies, you can find better and more appropriate tools, and our duty as government and government agencies is to help you to find the space to have this common dialogue. This is a very interesting conclusion, Joao, that you are proposing in your presentation. Now, I would like to invite our panelists to have a short dialogue on the results we have found in the innovation ecosystems of Colombia and Korea. Allow me to begin with Ambassador Caiza. And let me, Ambassador, ask you this. From your point of view, what has Korea done to be considered one of the most innovative countries in the world? And accordingly, in which sectors do you see an opportunity to strengthen the collaborative work between Colombia and Korea? Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alfredo. Excellent question. I would like to begin the academic expert that had the opportunity to study Korea. The opinion of experts is Korea in the last 60 years, Korea moved around 3 pillars. Number 1, high level of education. Number 2, digital innovation. And number 3, free trade. In that way, I would like to say that Korea entered to the OECD in 1997, and next year's implement one policy around innovation. policy of innovation. In that way, you can find ecosystems in public, private, and academic sector. And in that evolution, you can find ecosystem in territorial scenarios as Seoul or Pangyo or Songdo, or special cities, for example, with cities of only focusing, concentrate, for example, think tanks. The policy of innovation, you can review that evolution, for example, in the ranking of Bloomberg. The ranking of Bloomberg appeared 9 years ago. In the last 9 years, Korea was located in the #1 in 6 times. This year, again, #1. And the criteria, so are 14 criteria to obtain that. But #1 is the number of patentes, #1. Second, for example, in the last qualification, in the last grade, appear, for example, the evolution around the management of information that represents outcomes in the COVID-19 situation. I would like to say that with COVID-19 scenario demonstrate that Korea is in a good position in innovation. The management of COVID-19 with tracking strategy, test strategy, and treatment. But the other point is in COVID-19 situation, Korea in industry and entrepreneurship demonstrate good outcomes. For example, in the case of the industry of Korea, you have the opportunity to review the dynamic with Samsung, with LG, with POSCO, the orientation around 4th industrial revolution is very important. And in the case of startups, the COVID-19 situation demonstrates that Korea in this sector is ready to move with e-commerce. But now the government continue with the policy of innovation, but with a new concept. Really, this concept appeared 16 years ago, but the concept is innovation, is inclusive innovation. Inclusive innovation, this concept appeared 16 years ago. The objective is the innovation, but with the objective to obtain more development with startups, with the entrepreneurships. If you review this concept, and if you review the Korean New Deal, the plan with the objective to the economic reactivation between 2021 to 2025, you can analyze this concept. And it's in several sectors, health sector, education, and with the objective, for example, to hire more than 1.5 million Koreans, but around innovation, people with technical knowledge, thinking in create new projects and new scenarios, not only thinking in Korea, thinking in the world. If you review, for example, the National Development Plan of Colombia and the Korean plans, you can find similar plans around 4th industrial revolution, around entrepreneurships, and around creative industry. I would like to finish with the second part of your question. I believe Korea and Colombia has similar plans in 4th industrial revolution, entrepreneurship, creative industry, mega inversiones, mega investment. I believe the first point is Korea and Colombia need to move around how can connect more Latin America and Asia. And in the case of which sectors, Colombia can be an excellent partner to Korean startups, I would like to invite to analyze. One, the concept of smart farms. Colombia is destined to agricultural projects. The experts in Korea say that the fifth industrial revolution will be the agriculture sector. In that case, Korea has the education and innovation, knowledge. Colombia has the human resources and land. I believe we need to looking for joint ventures. You need to find joint ventures. You need to create projects with the knowledge of Korea, innovate around innovation, agricultural knowledge, and education. And we need to locate that in the scenario of Colombia. I believe smart farms is the one big sector to both countries. And second sector is bioeconomy. You know, Colombia is the second country with the major biodiversity in the world. Colombia has around seven worlds. Amazonian region, 35% of the land. Orinoquia region, 15% of the land. Andean region, Pacific region, Caribbean region, Ocean world, and Chocobio Geográfico, a strategic jungle in Latin America. I believe with bioeconomy, Korean companies can enter to Colombia to take advantage of that scenario around, for example, health sector, around cosmetics, around trade, and around, of course, services as ecotourism. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador Caiza, and I will very briefly highlight some of the topics that you've mentioned, including the importance of education, innovation, and the digital component of it, the relevance of the joint work between public and private sectors, and I think the most important in these current times, inclusiveness. Now, in accordance with the program, I would like to ask the Chief Executive Director of Born to Global, Mr. Jong-kap Kim. How has Mr. Kim Korea managed to overcome any difficulty that may arise in the relation between the different actors in entrepreneurship and innovation and in the ecosystem? And as a result, how has Born to Global, in your view, contributed to the strengthening of the Korean ecosystem? You have the floor, Mr. Kim.
Thank you. First of all, I appreciate the Ambassador Caiza and ProColombia iNNpulsa to hosting today's event. Personally, I'm so happy, almost crying, to see the shopping company and the bands, matching the process and the result, because it was a big challenge. 2 years ago, I think 2.5 years ago, we proposed this idea to the IDB people first time, but at that time, nobody believed us. Everybody talk about it's impossible because distance and the cultural difference. And of course, each country never thought about the startup collaboration between Colombia and Korea. So everybody talk about Colombia in Korea. They talk about Colombia, then we just talk about just trading. And when I visited Colombia, they thought about Korea is a very far away, different animal country as a startup viewpoint. So not the neighbor or not the close friend to work together. But for the IDB and ProColombia, of course, the many other agencies help. We've been working very hard for the last 10 months. And finally, we make the one copy of that, the joint venture. And I think we show up the example, and we're gonna keep marching to create tens or hundreds more joint venture together. Then Yes, that's why I'm so happy to hear today. And of course, your question is, I think almost Mr. Ambassador Caiza talk about so many pro and con and the entrepreneurship innovation ecosystem. So I think the entrepreneurship and the innovation ecosystem, two actors, is quite a little different animal, but it's very complementary, situation. So without the huge foundation of the entrepreneurship, education, and promotion, we cannot create the innovation ecosystem. This is a fundamental, basement. That's why the Korea government put a lot of resource to promoting entrepreneurship through the school and the community and some government agency. So I didn't count on it, but it's like over 1,000 organizations involved to promoting the entrepreneurship here and there, like a small village community center. So everywhere, when you access, then they can tell us what's the entrepreneurship and what's the step and what will be next, the process. So this is kind of the government involvement, but this not just only the foundation of the resource pool, but also recently we focusing on more customer side. Entrepreneur itself, it will be a customer of the innovation ecosystem. So entrepreneurship is more large scale of the concept. So if I want to open my coffee shop, small store of the coffee, then it will be also another entrepreneurship result. But with certain technology, innovative idea, they operate in different type of the coffee store. It can be an innovation ecosystem. And that it helps more scalable and sustainable no matter what business. So we believe as a government, without innovation from now on, fourth industrial revolution period, digital transformation period, we cannot sustain scalable and sustainability of the business. So we, as a government, we tried not separate, mixed entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem. So we pretty much focus on financing area, as like the ProColombia iNNpulsa, and we pretty much how we continuously support innovation technology. It came from university or it came from research institution, but it was a separate for last 30 years. So they have a different type of character. And the business area is not familiar with the technology. But with now, as like the Ubuntu Global, we try to introduce helping the commercialization more friendly and diffusing their innovative technology to all area industry, not only the smart tech, smart farming, smart factory, but also e-commerce or O2O business. For example, you talk about the prop tech. Yeah, prop tech is a very old traditional industry, like building or in construction. But nowadays, so many AI or data technology involved in prop tech and maintain the facility very smartly and costly, something like that. So government involvement of the balancing the entrepreneurship and the ecosystem, the innovation ecosystem is much more bigger role to the mix together with the new sustainable and the scalable for the business, create the new economic outcome. And then recently, another government role of the Korea is if they adopt new innovative system into their small business, marketplace is very important. If they don't get the tracking the customer or getting the revenue from their innovative product, nobody will do that. So that's why the Korea government initiated recently the DNA initiative, also the Green New Deal, Digital New Deal, which is we as a government, we create huge market to bring into the all player into the one place, and that they share their business model and idea, and they confirm their business, the activity, and then group make them growing with the innovative technology. So these are the activity like the same as Colombia. As a government, we try to help the entrepreneur community and the innovation ecosystem player. And the second question you are the Born to Global is for the last 30 years, 20 years, every global business is export model. So somebody has a product, they try to export. We call this internationalization. And set up the branch of the foreign country, and they operate in the selling, the activity. That's the typical way of globalization. But as I mentioned, innovation ecosystem, innovation technology is not easy. Somebody should adopt this technology, this idea, then you can sell the product. But 20 years ago, they don't need to adopt. They just purchase our product, and they immediately they can sell, they can negotiate the pricing. But the deep tech area or digital transformation area, we need some partner on the different region. And then they adopt my technology like Advanced and Shuffle, and then they together, they can sell their product into the different market. So that's why we initiate the joint venture initiative as many as we make some, the partnership, and then they work together, they proving their product in their own domain market, and then we can help together going out different market, not single company, but together. Then it is much easier to adaptation and more easy to expand their business globally. So actually, there are so many entities to work with the domestic in Korea, helping the innovation and the entrepreneurship. But we are a single organization with the deep tech to globalization. So I hope with this moment, we can work not binding with the IDB, but as a Born to Global iNNpulsa, Born to Global ProColombia. I hope every year tens or hundreds joint venture company make it, and with them, we go into the different market together. So thank you for today hosting, and we'll keep working.
Thank you, Mr. Kim, and I take your word for granted. We will work together for future events, and I will very quickly also reference this intimate, very close relation between entrepreneurship and innovation. Without an entrepreneur looking for solutions, there can be no innovation. And without innovation providing new tools, entrepreneurship will be limited. And that's a very interesting reflection. Now, I will revert to Ms. Catalina Maecha and ask the following question. What is iNNpulsa doing to develop the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem in Colombia, and what are the biggest challenge we have found in these programs? Catalina, you have the floor, and for the audience, please switch to English channel.
Alfredo, muchas gracias y muy emocionada también de escuchar cómo está en este momento tanto Corea como Colombia en el mismo canal y muy articulados en temas de innovación y emprendimiento. Y muy clave específicamente lo que nos comentaban, y es cómo sin la innovación efectivamente no se puede emprender, y es también una primicia que tenemos desde iNNpulsa. Además, esa colaboración entre startups, cómo los ayudamos a fortalecerse, y esto cómo lo hacemos colaborativamente, no solo a nivel Colombia entre las instituciones, sino también esa unión global, pues con diferentes aliados en otros países como lo es Corea. Por supuesto, la promoción de emprendimiento es nuestro eje principal y en eso es a lo que nos dedicamos todos los días. Y me parece súper clave lo que nos comentaba también de adaptar negocios globalmente, y eso se hace con la ayuda pues de todos estos grandes aliados, programas, iniciativas. Todos los esfuerzos que podamos aunar en pro de esto pues permitirán que efectivamente las startups puedan llegar a otro nivel, puedan internacionalizarse y puedan generar valor en el mercado, que es al final creo que el gran input para todos. Retos tenemos muchos, y yéndome un poco a mi presentación y lo que les hablaba hace un rato, este tema de reglamentar e implementar la ley de emprendimiento es todo un reto, porque en un principio construirla, esto fue de la mano pues de muchísimos aliados, pero ya en el punto de reglamentar y llevarlo a algo tangible para el emprendedor, pues es todo un reto en el que estamos trabajando en este momento. El tema de los ecosistemas especializados, hablar de un ecosistema como el fintech, que a nivel Colombia somos el tercero de la región y en eso estamos generando como mucho valor también a nivel GovTech y otros sectores muy importantes que queremos potencializar. Es un reto muy grande, es un reto mostrar desde Colombia hacia el mundo cómo desde estos sectores podemos nosotros potencializarlos y generar además estos joint venture o estas alianzas, pues para que sea un tema de ambos lados y que se pueda generar valor a nivel país. Por supuesto, la generación de ecosistemas de impacto, y aquí es donde les hablaba del tema de empresas BIC, y es como este año tenemos una meta muy importante y es cerrar el año con más de 1000 empresas BIC certificadas. Eso es todo un reto, pero si lo logramos también es un paso adelante que damos y es posicionarnos también como país en este aspecto. La conexión de ecosistemas, nosotros lo estamos haciendo desde 4 frentes y es la conexión con ecosistemas internacionales y aquí me voy un poco a lo que nos comentaba el embajador, cómo podemos articularnos para generar esa conexión, por ejemplo, en el sector agro a nivel internacional, como lo que está haciendo Corea se puede articular con lo que tiene Colombia y potencializar, por ejemplo, las tierras, potencializar el conocimiento de nuestros campesinos, de nuestros empresarios, que además a través de tecnología pues pueden llevar esto a otro nivel. Entonces creo que hay una gran oportunidad a nivel de conexión internacional. Por supuesto, el ecosistema nacional es todo un reto, queremos tener mapeado todos los actores que tienen iniciativas en emprendimiento e innovación, pero antes de mapear a los actores también tenemos que mapear la oferta y saber cómo la potencializamos para que al final a ese emprendedor le llegue pues una oferta fortalecida, una oferta que por su nivel de madurez de emprendimiento pues le sirva y pueda aplicar la oferta que le funciona y que al final genere pues un valor agregado en su emprendimiento y genere empresas, genere empleos, genere productividad y esos son los resultados que nosotros queremos ver. Los ecosistemas regionales, muy importante, como nosotros a través de nuestras regiones que son muy diferentes, tenemos a nivel de Colombia unos ecosistemas, algunos más desarrollados que otros, y aquí pongo un ejemplo como Medellín, es un ecosistema mucho más desarrollado, un ecosistema como Cali, un ecosistema como Manizales, que ya tienen unos pinos muy, muy importantes en temas de emprendimiento e innovación y lo han hecho también colaborativamente con otros países. Y por supuesto los ecosistemas sectoriales. Nosotros desde iNNpulsa trabajamos en círculos sectoriales, hicimos el lanzamiento hace poco del círculo sectorial de salud y aquí tenemos ya varios aliados con los que estamos trabajando para generar proyectos que al final esto repercuta también en los emprendedores que son de este sector y vean más oportunidades también en el ecosistema. Como les decía, todo el tema de educación es un tema que no podemos dejar pasar y es un reto muy, muy grande llevar y preparar esa siguiente generación en temas también digitales, de transformación digital ahora, pero además de emprendimiento y además de habilidades para emprender, pero también de habilidades blandas, no solo habilidades duras y cómo formamos a ese emprendedor pues para que sea capaz de enfrentarse al mundo. Y me quedo con un tema bien importante y es efectivamente cómo hacemos la colaboración con Corea y cómo nos articulamos, ya lo estamos haciendo pues a través de esta gran alianza y es para nosotros un placer saber que desde iNNpulsa estamos generando esta articulación con ustedes. Es un honor para nosotros poder tener este espacio y poder mostrar a todas las personas que están conectadas que efectivamente sí puede haber una alianza entre Corea y Colombia en términos de emprendimiento e innovación y seguiremos trabajando para seguir construyendo esta Colombia nación emprendedora. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Catalina. And as with this, we have concluded the interventions in our agenda. I'll try to make some very few conclusion remarks. I think we have listened to during today's presentation once a strong coincidence of vision between both Colombia and Korea regarding innovation and entrepreneurship. I think we both have basically similar pillars, and I think both countries will benefit greatly of this exchange of experience and this dialogue that has already showing good outcomes. Then we have listened to the experience of the private sector and the entrepreneurs, and we have seen that for them it is the search of new tools to solve current real problems, and the utility of having this platform to work together and to identify among them the best way to solve these challenges. We discussed as well about key pillars in the future exchanges related to education, related to innovation for sure, but mainly about inclusiveness, one of the core issues to deal. We have learned a very important lesson, this extraordinarily close link between entrepreneurship and innovation, and how one cannot exist without the other. And finally, we have also learned about the big challenge in this process, the need for thinking about global adaptation to ensuring that solutions impact as many sectors as possible. I will not extend my remarks. I want to indicate my deep appreciation for all the participants today for this very fruitful session. It was a pleasure to have you today participating in this event, and I'm very sure that we will have more events as this in months to come. I want to express as well our appreciation for the more than 70 participants that we have had along this webinar. Should you have any questions about today's event, or you want to explore new opportunities for trade, investment, and tourism with Colombia, please feel free to contact the ProColombia office in Seoul, iNNpulsa, and Born to Global. The network of advisors will be ready there to provide assistance and guidance. And with this, finally, I thank you again very much for your participation today. To all of you, have a good night in Colombia and good day in Seoul. The sun is shining again here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.